Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. This is 20th of October, Wednesday, and we are back with the next edition of your daily quiz. The first question is on your screen right now. Consider the following GM crops and choose the ones which are not legally allowed to be cultivated in India. Is it rice, brinjal, cotton, or mustard? The options are right in front of you. You have to choose which of these are not legally allowed in India. The correct answer here is C. That is 1, 2, and 4 are not legally allowed in India, meaning that the only GM crop, the only genetically modified crop that has been permitted to be legally cultivated in India is BT cotton. Now, the reason why we are asking this question to you is because of this news article in today's Hindu newspaper, where the European Union says that GM rice from India is related to the food recall. However, the Indian government has clarified that there is no GM rice that is cultivated in India. As we just discussed, the only GM crop that is cultivated in India legally is BT cotton. Now, you would have read the news articles about BT brinjal and even the mustard crop that the government of India is contemplating allowing to be cultivated in its GM form. However, as of now, the only genetically modified crop allowed in India is BT cotton. For BT brinjal and BT mustard, there are still ongoing trials that are happening at different stages. But so far, none of them have been given a go ahead by the government. Moving on, the second question. Consider the following statements with regards to diammonium phosphate, also known as DAP. Number one, the DAP is the most commonly used fertilizer in India. Second, the DAP with 46% phosphorus and 18% nitrogen is the preferred source of phosphorus for farmers, while urea is the preferred nitrogenous fertilizer. Third, farmers normally apply this fertilizer just before or at the beginning of sowing as it is high in phosphorus that stimulates root development. Which of these given statements is or are correct? The correct answer here is B. That is, second and the third statements are correct while the first statement is wrong. Why is the first statement wrong? The simple reason is DAP is actually the second most used fertilizer in India. Which fertilizer takes the top spot? That is urea. So urea with its high nitrogen content takes the top spot as the most used fertilizer in India, while DAP comes at the second place. Why are we asking this question to you? Because of this article, Rajasthan government right now have urged the central government to pay attention towards the DAP fertilizer shortage in the state. There was also a news coverage about few months ago when the central government announced that they are increasing the subsidy amount on the DAP fertilizers. So it was in the news earlier in the year as well. Moving on, question number 3 is this. INSACOG recently seen in the news is what exactly? Number 1, ISRO's latest satellite to join the IRNSS navigation system. Second, CDAC's latest supercomputer focusing on cognitive learning. Third, consortium of labs focusing on finding genome sequencing of SARS-CoV virus. And fourth, instantly rechargeable battery for electric cars. The correct answer here is C. It is actually a joint effort of a lot of labs coming together under the Ministry of Health, trying to find the exact genome sequencing of SARS-CoV virus so that we can predict the future variants and be prepared against them. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this news article in the Hindu newspaper today, where this consortium has decided to track the virus in the sewage system as well. Since a large proportion of our population might be affected with this virus unknowingly, and the sewage collected from drains across the cities can be a good way to check the presence of this virus in different cities. Do note that this consortium, that is INSACOG, has participation from public as well as private labs. As you can see, the CSIR's Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology is also a part of this particular network. You also would have noticed the news in the past few days, according to which no new variant has been found of late of coronavirus, which is again a very positive news. Moving on to the next question. Question number 4. Bhaskar Varman, the crowned ruler of Kamrupa Kingdom, was the contemporary of Harshvardhan, Akbar, Ashok, or Samudragupta. The correct answer here is Harshvardhan. If you have seen previous year papers of UPSC prelims, you would know that these kind of questions from Indian history, specifically the questions which ask you about contemporary of certain kings, contemporary of certain saints, are very common. The reason why we are asking this question is because of this news from Assam, according to which the Assam government has decided that Bhaskarabda will be added to the official calendar of the state. It is an era which starts from the day that Bhaskar Varman took charge of the Kamrupa kingdom. The news article also tells you that he was a contemporary of the northern Indian ruler Harshvardhan of Thanesar. I'm sure that you would have read about Harshvardhan in your history classes. Also remember that the Gregorian calendar and the Assamese calendar are slightly different. While in the Gregorian calendar the day starts at midnight, in the Assamese calendar the day starts and ends at sunrise, while the duration remains the same, that is 24 hours. Also, the Bhaskarabda era will be using lunisolar system based on both the phases of moon and the solar year. The gap between Bhaskarabda and the Gregorian calendar is 593 years. So, small article with a lot of information. Make sure that you remember all this. Time now to discuss a previous year question that was asked in the year 2019. With reference to the Constitution of India, prohibitions or limitations or provisions contained in ordinary laws cannot act as prohibitions or limitations on the constitutional powers under Article 142. It could mean which of the following? Number 1. Decisions taken by the Election Commission of India while discharging its duties cannot be challenged in any court of law. Second, the Supreme Court of India is not constrained in its exercise of its power by laws made by the Parliament. Third, in the event of grave financial crisis in the country, the President of India can declare financial emergency without the counsel from the cabinet. And fourth, state legislatures cannot make laws on certain matters without the concurrence of union legislature. The question itself, if you read it clearly, would give you the answer. The answer in this case is B. Article 142 forms the basis of the humongous amount of powers that the Supreme Court has. Article 142 talks about the fact that the Supreme Court of India can give any directive that ensures complete justice in the society. Now, this phrase complete justice in itself is a very wide phrase and gives amazing powers to the Supreme Court. I'll give you certain examples. There was an instance in which the UP government was just not changing its Lokayukt even after the tenure of the Lokayukt was over, just because the state government found the Lokayukt to be favorable to them. The Supreme Court eventually had to step in and remove the Lokayukt from his position and appoint someone else. Now, removing of the Lokayukt is not the power of the Supreme Court. However, the Supreme Court still did it because Article 142 gives the Supreme Court the power to ensure complete justice in the society. This is just a small example of what the Supreme Court can do under Article 142. That is why B is the correct answer. That is, the Supreme Court of India is not constrained in its exercise of powers by the laws made by the Parliament of India. Time now to move on to the fact of the day, and today we will be discussing about women reservation in legislatures, specifically in India. We are discussing this because there was a news about the Congress party deciding that in the UP elections, 40% of the candidates shall be women. We thought it would be a good time to discuss the history of women reservation in legislatures in India specifically. It has been almost 25 years since the first bill was introduced in the parliament for providing 33% women reservation in the parliament. While the first bill for this was introduced in 1996, it has been almost 25 years, but the bill has not been passed. As I said, 1996 was the first time that the bill was introduced in the parliament. Since then, it has lapsed many times and it has been reintroduced many times by different parties which have been in power. As per the bill, the women should be given 33% reservation both in the parliament as well in the state assemblies. Also, this reservation was not supposed to be permanent. The provision was the reservation will only exist for a period of 15 years. At present, the bill is still pending in the Lok Sabha. If you compare India with other countries across the world in terms of women representation in the national parliament, India has shown a very lackluster performance. We rank at 145th place in the list of 193 nations, below our neighbors such as China and Pakistan, which are not known for giving rights to their women. Right now, there are 14% women in the Indian parliament, which is an all time high. Also, please tell me in the comment section below how many women were there in the first Lok Sabha. Also, tell me the names of the nations that have passed such a law under which women have been given reservation in their national parliament. While 14% seems like a pretty low number, but for India it is an all-time high. Such a list is published each month by the Inter Parliamentary Union, that is the IPU, that talks about the percentage of women in national parliaments across the world. It has also been linked to women rights. There is a view that women rights in India would get a shot in the arm if we have more women in the national parliament, either through reservation or otherwise. This is it for today's class. Thank you so much for watching the video.